Thank you very much for all coming in and taking your seats, and thank you for coming every week. We really appreciate seeing you guys here, and hopefully you guys are learning something every time that you come about the wonderful startups that are here in the city, and also hopefully taking home some things about what you can do in your business a little bit better. So, who's new? Again, we ask this every week. Still amazing. Thank you guys very much for coming. And so a quick backstory. 1 Million Cups came from an idea here at the Kaufman that basically said, if we could have 1 million cups of coffee, 1 million more cups of coffee, what kind of impact would that have if we were having that with the local startup community? Basically, having those conversations about what business was doing here, what things were available, and how would that impact the community. So now, almost a year and a half later from that conversation, we are in several cities across the country. We'll talk about that a little bit more, give you a progress update. But this is what has come out of that conversation. So thank you very much for being a part of that. The structure and how it is formatted is we have 2 presenters every week. Each presenter has 6 minutes to come up here, get you up to speed on what's going on with his business, and then there's 20 minutes of question and answers that will follow that. So that's really the part of 1 Million Cups that depends on you guys to engage. Come up with your questions. Don't be shy. We'll be running mics around. You'll see us in a minute. Be sure to ask your questions, get answers. It's a really great format. So without any further ado, we would like to get into the presentation. We have 816 Bike Collective here, and really excited about this. They are a teaching platform that teaches people how to service and rebuild and maintain bicycles as a mode of transportation. So if Idris would come up here, we'll get rocking and rolling. So give him a warm welcome.
I think this is on. Yep. So I'm Idris Raoufi. I just graduated from the Urban Planning Department at UMKC, and I do consultant planning with Maine Core and a couple other groups. In the whole process of being a full-time urban planning student, I've also been involved with the 816 Bicycle Collective. I'm a co-founding member, one of 5, one of 3 that are still with the project today. We've been going for about 5 years, and I'm going to explain to you a little bit about what we do and kind of why I'm here to speak about it today. So the Bike Collective is comprised of a very diverse group of volunteers and members that come from very different socioeconomic backgrounds. And we work with people in the Boston Heights and Center City neighborhood and kind of a little broader area to redistribute bicycles that are normally thrown away. So we strip down bikes, we sort the parts, and we teach people how to replace parts on their bikes or perform maintenance on their bikes, but also build bikes from scratch, which is a really incredible skill. So our shop is located at 3116 Forest, which is 1 block east of Truce, behind the Reconciliation Services and also behind Center Patrol Police Station. And we've been in this location for about 4 years. As you can see, it's not the most idyllic bike shop, but no bike shops are idyllic. And it's kind of a rough space. It's kind of a subterranean space that we've kind of worked to rehab, if that's kind of a loose word for this building. And you know, in this shop, like when it rains outside, it rains inside. But we still manage to serve a very diverse and large population. And the community impacts have been pretty overwhelming. Over the last 5 years, we've redistributed over 900 bicycles and serviced maybe close to 1,000, maybe a little bit more over that. And you know, people come back every week, so we're always kind of cycling through, no pun intended, cycling through these bicycles. And the people we serve are what make this project really unique. We didn't set out with a target of who we were going to serve. We didn't really look for any funding. We didn't base it off of a model that existed in the city or any of the models that exist elsewhere, we realized that this program would have to be flexible to the diverse needs of whoever we were going to be serving. And that was one of the reasons why we located at 31st and Truce, because we had access to a spot. So over the last 5 years, and with the great amount of people that we've served, these are just a couple faces of the people that we serve. And to kind of better articulate a little bit more about this population we've recently surveyed, which this is really us getting our act together. And just to give you an idea about some of the commuting patterns and the characteristics of the people who use our shop, 46% people come to our shop, every week, or not every week, but at least twice a month. And so there is a very great rapport with the people that we work with. And out of those people, 62% commute via bicycles exclusively. A lot of the people we serve can't afford to take the bus regularly, or the bus is just very inflexible to their schedules or suiting their needs. In terms of how far people travel, 39% travel over 25 miles. And to kind of articulate to a lot of people what a mile is in Kansas City, it's about 8 north-south city blocks. And we use this as kind of a description of like how far a mile is. And it's surprising how often people, when we were doing this survey, underestimated how much they rode. And then we would kind of verify, and it's actually not necessarily relevant. Or this graph is kind of a low shot. They commute much further than that. And a great deal, like 65% of people live within 5 miles of our shop, with 39% being within 2.5 miles. And to give you an idea of what that is, the inner ring is 2.5 and the outer ring is 5 miles. Not to say that we have people living in the floodplain, or the river, but that we are serving a very large area in Kansas City, despite the fact that we're incredibly localized in 2 neighborhoods. So when it comes to income, earned income, this is about the breakdown for our patrons, which we call the people that we serve. And 62% earn under $11,500 a year. And actually, we mostly earn under $11,500 a year too. But I find that these statistics better describe what we're doing and why we're doing it. And one of the reasons why we never came out as an organization in the beginning and said we want to do this is because we didn't know like what necessarily the need was, but we learned very quickly what kind of need we'd be serving in the community. So this kind of brings me to why I'm here. We recently bought 3 commercial buildings off the Jackson County Delinquent Tax Auction for $5,500. These buildings are located at 31st and Cherry. They're on one parcel. We own them outright. And we wanted to move our shop into a location where we own the shop, we could have exclusive control over the programming, and we can develop new programming that could kind of serve a larger context and also can kind of stratify who we serve. So we can do LGBT nights, so we could do kids programming nights. We serve a lot of people that are being reintroduced into society from prison, and it's a very difficult situation to kind of integrate them with all the other people that we serve. So we would like to kind of develop this programming, and having our own space would be very conducive for that. So that's great. But these buildings were filled with about a decade's worth of illegal dumping. Left hand. So we basically cleared out mountains of trash, 6 40-yard dumpsters. To give you an idea, 40-yard dumpster is kind of relative to this row, and maybe about 20 feet back, full of just debris and whatnot. We've repointed all the outside. We've done a lot of this. Has all been sweat equity. These are all the same people that work at our shop. These are the people we serve coming out to help us. And we've been lucky enough to run into a contractor by the name of Jamie P. Jeffries. Does anyone know Jamie Jeffries? He'd be really embarrassed if I said this, but he's an amazing guy. A really awesome contractor, and he's donated his services in kind and at least donated over $25,000 to this project, and is actually bid out our whole job to get all 3 buildings finished for $82 grand. And $82 grand is a ton of money, but considering what other conservative bids we've got, closer to $250,000 to get this project done, I think it's really inexpensive. So we launched a Neighborly crowdfunding campaign to kind of to close that gap so we could leverage his services and get our shop operational by 2014. So these are our amazing graphics. They're really pretty. And that's the facade of our building on 31st Street. So the way you can help us, most and foremost, is by help spreading the word of this project. We're on Facebook. We have a Facebook page. We create Facebook events for every little event we do. Our website's the816bike.org. And then you can like us on Facebook. You can follow our Twitter handle, and because we're always active. Actually, coming up on Saturday, Nature Zone is donating 5% of their sales to our Neighborly campaign. So get your groceries there, support Nature Zone. And we're having a big closing party where Tallgrass is providing free beer for every donation. So it'll be a lot of fun. And then, of course, big shout out to Neighborly, who's made this crowdfunding campaign possible. And you can donate at any time, and I would love it if you did. I'll leave it there. I'll open up the floor to questions, because I am over. Sorry.
Questions? Ooh, that was loud. Sorry. Over here on your left.
I particularly like your model where you ask your patrons to invest either financially or through service. Have you considered a fundraiser where your donors might get something in exchange as well? I'm a hobbyist bike rider. I'm not avid, but I do like to ride my bike. I know nothing about anything about how to maintain my bike. I would gladly go to a fundraiser where, for some donation, one of your folks, one of your wrench people, I guess you call them, yes, would teach me some basics about maintaining my bike. I'm just trying to throw that out there for you.
No, I think that's a great suggestion. And a lot of times, Neighborly is a crowdfunding campaign, very similar to Kickstarter for reference, but very different in how you interact with it as a donor and what kinds of projects they fund. So one of the things that we did this is our Neighborly page, which is really fantastic, by the way, is we have tiers on the right-hand column, which if you donate at or above this tier, you get these amazing perks, and we've been told that we're crazy for offering such great perks, but like for $100, we can kind of work with like a DIY. We'll teach you how to work on your bike. We have like custom tours that we'll give as founding members. If you donate, I think what it is, like $5,000, which we haven't had any donations at that level. You can actually host a party in our new building when it's finished, and the Bike Collective will kind of be your staff and just kind of hang out. So that's a way through this campaign that we wanted to kind of give back to people who are giving to us. And it's interesting to note that the donors of our shop, or the patrons of our shop, have collectively donated over $1,700 to this campaign, which is incredible, which is more than any one individual or organization has donated to us. So, it kind of elaborates about how people feel passionately about this project who are involved in it. But in last September, we did an art show at the West Side Local where we offered all the artists a commission. And we took the shorter end of the commission, and it was a really successful show. We sold about 70 pieces from really amazing local artists. So we're really into, we ask a lot, but we also understand that we need to return for people's donations.
So I have a quick question over here. What have you seen as you've done? I know you kind of went into the fact of the area that you serve and how far-reaching it is. Do you have any examples of how it impacts someone being able to have a communication, or not communication, a commute vehicle, being able to sustain more employment? What is the bigger picture of what you're able to provide by giving these tools and these resources and teaching them how to do this?
Well, the answer to that question is actually the reason why I've been with the Bike Collective for so long, and that's, long story short, when I see someone that's had their bike for 5 years, and they're on the side of the road and they recognize me and they say, hey, but they're also changing their flat, which that happens quite often. I mean, the idea with our shop and why we want to teach people how to do this as opposed to just give them a recycled bicycle is we want them to be able to fix their bike whenever they need to. So they have no barrier to transportation. And a large majority of the people we serve like kind of fill that role where they know how to work on their bikes, and they don't just roll up to a gas station and throw their bike against the side of the wall and go in and freak out when their bike's stolen, as a lot of kids do. But you know, they chain their bikes up. They have a sense of ownership of their bikes, and I mean, it's really amazing to see how often we run into people who have had these bikes for years.
Morning, great program. I'm Bob King. I live up in Leavenworth, which is far outside your commute zone, but there's a bicycle shop up there that I know would probably be interested in this. And that's my question is, you know, have you reached out to local bicycle shops as sponsors? Have you thought about going out to some of the big, you know, like Trek and other bicycle companies to help sponsor this? And also, you know, there's a lot of programs for where places like Walmart will donate car seats for people that need car seats for children. So you could go after safety equipment that way. You could perhaps get somebody to donate some, you know, bicycle helmets and other things and safety vests, so that they could have safety equipment.
Actually, the first part of your question, we work very closely with area bike shops. A couple of the area bike shops will donate or allow us to use their accounts to get parts that we need. And we've never wanted to compete with bike shops. We don't provide a service that bike shops provide. We serve the population that, you know, I am a bike mechanic, a professional bike mechanic that's worked in shops in the city, and we're pretentious. We don't want to deal with people. And when someone comes in with the department store quality bike and they have an attitude, we don't want to deal with them. It's just the case. If anybody's been to a bike shop, you might recognize that. But you know, that's the population that we serve. And you know, so we do a favor to bike shops in that regard. But in terms of soliciting donations from Walmart, it has been suggested, and we have looked into it. It becomes an issue of capacity. We're about 3 core members that are out, like doing more of the administrative and the programmatic details of our shop outside of itself. And then like most of our volunteers just kind of hang out. So like, and that kind of goes in line with grant writing. Like you need someone to manage grants. You need someone to follow up with programming and things of that nature. Also, our physical space greatly limits our capacity in terms of how many bikes we can store. You know, our new space. But you know, in the future, we could receive more bicycles that way with this facility. But yeah, that's a great recommendation.
Another question here on your.
Yeah, I live like right by you guys, just down the street. And are you aware that like 2 blocks away, Thank You Walt Disney is trying to rehab a building as well? Have you talked to Butch Rigby or any of those guys over there maybe about doing something together?
Yeah, we've never communicated with them as like one official organization to another. But if you've ever come to our shop, we have a couple CNC, or not CNC routed, but like cast Mickey Mouse heads that have been incorporated into some of our like doors. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting building. It's, you know, but they're in the same boat as us, as they're doing a lot of great things and they need a lot of money.
What about Spin Pizza? They do a lot with the bike community as well. They do a lot of events out of their shops. They do a lot of bike rides for fundraisers out of their shops. You might, if you haven't already, approach them and see about partnering up for an event to get your campaign out.
Yeah, actually, we sat down and had kind of a strategizing meeting. That's a very technical term for our group, actually. And it's mostly just drinking beer. But Spin Pizza was one of the people we were going to contact. Unfortunately, our campaign ends on Saturday, so there is a sense of urgency in what we're able to do. But yeah, Spin Pizza has donated to our events in the past. But you know, it's hard for us to kind of reach out in the way we would like to. But I really invite anybody who sees a great connection in the business community for our shop to approach us about it. Or, I give you permission to take the initiative to throw it out there to these businesses, because that would be really meaningful to us. It's a way for you to contribute to our project as well. Sorry if that's kind of...
Hi, I'm Allison.
Hi.
Have you spoken with or are you aware of Kansas City Urban Youth Center?
I don't think I have. I definitely have not spoken with them.
They are just someone I potentially would connect you with. They have done with the Urban Corps, working with students and finding safe bike paths downtown and areas for kids to be able to bike to and from home and school. And just that's something also, I think beyond this specific campaign to approach, like working with like children, like I can't even remember the gentleman we had come in and teach the kids, how to take care of their bike and how to plan what is a safe bike route, because Kansas City is, if you are a biker here, is not the most friendly. So that's just something I think, if you guys haven't thought about that, like working with schools, teaching kids safety and something like that.
It's definitely something we want to do. But again, it's towards our capacity issue. We do work with Front Porch Alliance, and we do work with Metro Lutheran Ministries. We've worked with Bridging the Gap. We worked with the Art Institute and UMKC to try and reach out as much as we can to kind of distribute like the good that this shop does. But working with children is something that we want to do, and we want to develop that programming more. But either we collaborate with a group, and that's what we did with Bridging the Gap. We went to schools and we did bicycle rodeos and we did bike maintenance workshops. But we would also like to do it in our physical space to kind of relieve some of the capacity needs of organizations that work with children. But thank you.
Question over here on your left.
Hello, first timer. Two questions. First one, I know everyone's thinking is, where do we get one of those t-shirts? And the second one is, looking at the renderings, the build out looks beautiful. Have you considered dedicating it to an event space that people could rent for weddings, just have, enough plumbing to have, off-site bartenders and caterers? It seems like you could generate a lot of revenue, because there's not a cool place to have an event that's affordable in town. So it seems like it could be a really big, moneymaker.
Well, I think that's a great observation, and it kind of just reminded me about a whole large portion of this project I forgot to mention. But first off, if you want to get these t-shirts, the 518 is our new address. And my girlfriend, who's a wonderful artist, designed these t-shirts, and Bandwagon Merch kind of donated their labor. But if you want, you donate to our site, and then you can email us at kcbikefed@gmail.com, or just Facebook message us, and we'll get you a shirt. They're $35, which is nothing compared to like how nice they are. But to your question, so these buildings, it's actually, like I mentioned, it's 3 commercial buildings. And our shop is only going to occupy the southernmost portion on the first floor. The second floor will be office space for like-minded groups, and then a shared community space that we'll offer for free to neighborhood organizations or social entrepreneurs to kind of have like a meeting space. So we want to facilitate, we want to share like in our wealth. And then the other 2 buildings, this little infill and the larger one, we plan to redevelop into leasable space that kind of funds the sustainable operations of the collective. And that would be extremely minded or geared towards social entrepreneurship or businesses or nonprofit organizations. And because we don't want to be like alone in our castle, we want to really share this space, and we're trying to take a lot of the ethics of our shop and the methods of working with people and kind of incorporate them into these buildings, not just in how we do it, but in how these buildings kind of work together. Because because we own the buildings outright and we don't have overhead like that, we can charge a very nominal fee for this type of store frontage. So yeah, and again, if you donate $5,000, you can have an event party. And we'll wait on you. Don't be shy.
Other questions? We got time for probably 1 or 2 more.
It's been a very positive presentation so far, but on the other side, I noticed that you have a lot of people coming in once a month or more than twice a month, and the first thought that came to my mind was theft. How is that like a lot worse where you are than, I don't know, Johnson County?
I've never operated a shop like this in Johnson County, so I can't. So I don't mean that to be rude, but I wouldn't know. But the reality is all these parts are recycled, and there is some scrap value to them. And if someone really wants to break into this shop to steal something, they will and can do it. But the idea of the shop and what's important is not our inventory of bicycles, but it's kind of the cooperative nature we develop with our patrons. So it kind of doesn't matter if people steal stuff, because there's always a huge supply of dumpsters and dumpsters of bicycles and bicycle parts. And their value is not kind of how we view the success of our project or these rebuilds. It could be a bicycle that just has a chain and a front brake, and that's good enough to get someone where they need to go. We have a big shed. We tore out the subfloor of this building and we didn't tear out load-bearing walls. Non-load-bearing walls to build a shed in our back alley. We are literally in a back alley. And people break into it every once in a while, mostly kids stealing parts, and some newer volunteers get really frustrated and upset, and I just try and communicate to them, it's not a big deal if they steal it. There's always people that want to donate bikes to us. That's, in fact, how we get all of our bikes and money right now is through those donations from people in the larger community and from Johnson County. But yeah, theft is, sorry.
So quick question, and I know we have to wrap up. I think the statement has been said that we're really not that much of a bike city yet, hopefully. I'm seeing more of that start to happen. Have you seen other cities, Northwest or Austin or places like this that have done something like this? Has this been done at other places, and have you learned from what they're doing?
Oh, absolutely. There's a wiki page of 144 cooperative collectives, DIY shops that are similar, but the amazing thing about them is that they're all extremely different because they serve very diverse communities. Our sister shop is in New Orleans, and it's called Rhubarb, Rusted Up Bikes Beyond All Recognition, or Rusted Up Beyond All Recognition Bikes. And they're in the lower 9th Ward. And we had like a dance party in Atlanta at the last Bike, which is like, Bike is a regional and then national conference for shops like ours, and we all get together. It's fun. But yeah, so we do communicate with a lot of other nonprofits like ours that are doing these projects and communicate ideas. And one of the biggest hurdles that all of these shops have is how do you retain your autonomous programming and the meaningfulness of what you're doing without getting fiscal sponsorship or with fiscal sponsorship, and it is very difficult. And so that's the big challenge that a lot of these shops have.
Wonderful. So that's pretty much the time that we have for questions, but we always wrap up with one question, which you've pretty much been answering since your presentation there. But the biggest ways to help and be involved, it sounds like donate bikes, donate parts, and then also donate to the Neighborly campaign. How and where do people actually go to donate the bikes? Is that on your website? Kind of reach out to you on Twitter? What's the best way to do that?
If you're looking to donate bicycles or parts, or you want to become a volunteer, or want to become active in the shop, you can just email us at kcbikefed.org or at Gmail. And then you can talk to us on Facebook as well. We're pretty active in that. But spreading the word is kind of the most important thing. If this is a project that you think is interesting, or you're just like, yeah, that's great, share it with your friends and tell them why you think it's interesting. Because the beauty of crowdfunding is that this whole campaign can be won with $10, $20 donations if we kind of like spread the social network in which we have reach. So that would be really appreciated. And thank you for listening to me.
Okay, so I see people coming up, but we have about 15 seats or so up here, so people standing in the back, I know it's come on up to the front because this is your opportunity to do it. So a few announcements real quick. First off, I want to give a shout out to some students that are in from, I believe, China with UMKC. I want to give them a warm 1 million cups welcome, so let's give them a round of applause. We've got our Twitter wall up today. If you've noticed, we're not actually following at 1 million cups, I don't think, on this wall. We're following at 1 million cups KC. This is a new handle for us. We've got so many cities on board now that we have to start managing it per city. So if you want to mention something, don't only tweet at 1 million cups. Make sure you put in there at 1 million cups KC, because that'll be more about who we are. Along those same lines, big news today. We have 2 more cities coming online this week. So Orlando and San Diego came online this morning, so go ahead and give them a round of applause. They might be, I don't know, are they waking up? Or are they, I guess it's 2 different sides. They're probably still asleep. And I think that brings us up to, we're at 15 cities now nationwide that 1 million cups. Started here in Kansas City. We're in 15 cities by the end of the year. The goal was 20. I'm hearing we'll definitely surpass that goal. So it's really exciting that this community has started something that's going nationwide. A few other announcements real quick. There's the Founders Finding Funding, which I'd like somebody to try to say that 5 times fast. We got a real quick announcement for that? Okay, good.
Hi, I'm Ray Barrett, and there's a great event happening this next Thursday, the 19th, at the Google Fiberspace. So you can sign up on Eventbrite, and it's called F3 Founders Finding Funding. And I can only say that when I'm sober. There's, it's sponsored by Touchstone and Ben Barrett's program, Home for Hackers. And the whole thing is designed around setting up a platform to help everybody understand the different funding platforms that are available to all of us here, from venture capital to crowdfunding to angels to SBA and traditional banking loans. And if you are in that stage of early seed development, you might find this quite a profitable little thing to go to. There'll be a lot of great information. But the kicker is that you will have some one-on-one time with these guys as well. So the whole platform of the evening is set up so that you can have one-on-one time. We will be taking questions from the floor, but you'll be able to have some personal time with the so-called experts there. Additionally, we're going to be looking at not just funding, but what makes a company fundable. At what stage in a company's development should they go for funding? What makes a really great investment-grade quality pitch? I've heard a lot of pitches in my VC career, and a lot of them are just crap. We want to change that. So we're going to be talking about all those kind of things. So if that sparks your interest, it's next week. Sign up on Eventbrite. We'll have a lot of fun. Okay, thanks.
Okay, and then Keith with Kaufman has a few announcements.
Good morning. Keith Mays from the Kaufman Foundation. I just wanted to remind you that today at 10:30 to noon over in Kaufman Labs, we're having our online branding workshop. A lot of you have already signed up, which is great, but I'm sure we could fit in a few more people. It's going to be presented by Mark Traphagen, and I want to give Mark 1 minute to kind of, in a nutshell, tell you what it's all about.
Yeah, hi, I'm Mark Traphagen. I'm with Verante. We're an agency in Morrisville, North Carolina, right outside the Raleigh-Durham area where there is a 1 million cups active. Glad to be with you this morning. And we've been working with the Kaufman Foundation for a number of years now. They asked me to come out and present to you this morning over in Kaufman Labs at 10:30, a little seminar on personal branding. But what I'm really going to do is I'm going to take a lot of the buzzwords that you hear if you follow online marketing at all these days, things like inbound marketing, content marketing, personal branding, all these things, and mash them up together, because what we've found is that their power happens when you use them together properly. And what we're going to be focusing on is how people, what you're doing here this morning, what you just saw a few minutes ago with 816 Bike, when you can come to a place like this and connect with a real person and hear their real story, There's something that's connected that's happened now that will never be the same for you. The same thing can happen online with your audience. We're going to talk about that this morning, 10:30 over in Kaufman Labs. We hope that you'll join us. Thank you.
Okay, so we're running a couple minutes behind, so we're going to keep moving forward, and I'm not even going to make much of an introduction because I think he can handle himself, but we're definitely excited to have Briefcase, part of Cobrapps, and Christian's going to tell us all about how they're changing the world with Briefcase.
You're making me look a little shorter than I am
Well,
in person.
you know.
If we could, there we go. Perfect. All right. Well, there's a little bit of people here today, so that's a good sign. I'm a pacer, so I hope you guys are okay with that. I'm probably going to be walking around from left to right. As George said, my name is Christian Fisher, and I am the CEO of Briefcase. My team is sitting over here. We're in the shirts that say Briefcase. So the problem that we're solving, and this kind of dates back to about 6 months ago, I was running global talent acquisition and university relations program for a company here in Kansas City. And my hiring manager at the time, and I noticed that students were applying to the same position over and over and over again. It was a little bit confusing. So we started doing some investigating, and we realized that students are going around their career service departments in certain cases to apply to opportunities because they feel like the school just cannot give them the right exposure to all job opportunities as they become available. The national average is actually 30%. So what that means is that of all of the students on campus, that there's an average out there that says that only 30% of them are going to get help from their CES department. That's not true of all schools, let me just be clear. So what we decided to do was disrupt that process by creating a private labeled kayak.com of job searching solutions. Essentially what it does is, or what we do, is we use smart technology that we've developed in-house to aggregate all jobs, and aggregation is a simple concept. It's basically taking a whole bunch of something and then putting it somewhere. Once we've been able to aggregate the job opportunities, we use vetting formulas that we've developed in-house, and I can't take credit for that because I'm not an engineer, but once we have those algorithms in play, we make sure that the job is active, it's valid, it's the right job, it still has some characteristics that we can distribute to a student that shows the relevance of the student's background to the job. And then we do just that. We distribute it to the student's mobile device using responsive design, which means it goes from this to this to this to depending on whatever tablet or device you have. So it creates, the goal is to create an ecosystem that's stronger. We want the students going through the school to get a job. We want them to be able to have a one-stop shop, and the resource is going to focus on a big market. So the market here for us, my team and I, is about 500 schools. Within a 350-mile radius of us. So the Midwest is very important to us. We want to saturate the market here. Proof of concept is, it works in the Valley, it works in Chicago, it works in Kansas City. So if we're able to acquire a tremendous amount of schools, clients, and users on our platform, we believe that we can be successful and ultimately see some kind of exit relevant to whatever our value is at that time. So there is competition in the space right now. Nobody that's really doing exactly what we're doing. The reason why is because the loyalty is always put on either the school to the business relationship or the business to the student. So there's not one resource that ties all three into a chain. Indeed is probably the biggest namesake that we see here. They're a job aggregator, and they have a mobile presence. They have a couple of native applications, iOS and Android. Aside from that, they're not playing in the school, or the college space. The competitor up here that is Nacelink. Nacelink is a great resource, however, it doesn't manage the process in the way that Briefcase aims to. And the team. So the bread and butter of any company, product, resource is in its team. So as I mentioned, I was brought out here, about 13 months ago by a company called AdKnowledge. Before that, I was in the Valley. And while I was in the Valley, I had the pleasure of doing talent acquisition, university relations programs for companies like Twitter, Yelp, and Zynga before being brought out here. I joined, the person who joined me is sitting over there, my CTO, who was my hiring manager when we first started putting together this platform. And then we brought on a very intelligent, pretty much handles everything together, locally grown talent from Rockhurst University, Caleb, who manages any and everything related to the business side. And then we've got an advisory board, and I wanted to highlight this really quick because I think this is important. So coming from the Valley, I've had the pleasure of working with companies when they were very young to watching them to progress to being very big. An advisory board is something that is absolutely pivotal to the success of any startup company. Having individuals that have your best interest at heart and getting them to commit to anywhere from 10 to 20 hours a month of hands-on work or help, whether it be building the platform, like in the case of our award-winning machine learning and data analytics scientist, or helping you to break into emerging markets, in the case of a gentleman who is a senior vice president for iModules. They're guiding us in areas of our business that we know we could use guidance. So I suggest and highly recommend, as they've been a resource unparalleled for us, that if you can, do it. So the Synapses, again, 30% market reach. That's what colleges can do for their students. The big number that we kind of took out of the slides here, but 79% of graduating students in the United States will be underemployed for 6 months after graduation. Even more staggering is 21% of them will never end up going into a career path parallel to their degree. Then President Obama, we were a part of the Spark Lab KC Business Accelerator, so big ups to the Spark Lab KC companies here in the room. But the day before that, we had the pleasure of jumping on stage and saying, hey, so yesterday President Obama announced a new program where the federal government is going around to universities across the country. They're going to start gauging them on their ability to put people not just in the workforce, but gauging them on putting people in the workforce parallel to their degree. So schools are now, some schools are frantically running around trying to figure out a way to collect better data, better metrics, and create an ecosystem, again, that's strong for their students, for them, and ultimately for career choice opportunities. And so that's what we hope to do. Thank you. All right.
Under time. Okay, so questions. I will, I know we've got a couple over here. I'll kick one off.
Yeah.
So this is more, a little bit selfish, but I want to hear about your experience of moving from around the country, because I know it wasn't just the Valley, you've been in a couple different places.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
what is it like? What do you think of Kansas City? What have you felt coming here and launching your product, not being a part of helping someone else launch their product, but launching your product here in KC?
Yeah, so that's probably one of my favorite subjects to talk about. So yeah, so like I said, I'm from the Valley. You know, I was that kid that in school, there was a guy that showed up to my class and was talking, and he said, hey, listen, we're going to revolutionize the way that people communicate with like 140 characters or less. And I was like, this guy's stupid, but I'll do it. And the evolution of watching the Valley come back from the .com bubble was amazing. And as George said, I've lived in Austin, Texas. I've lived on the East Coast, and I had some clients in Seattle, so I lived there briefly. Kansas City is my favorite, and I'm not just saying that because I'm in front of a room full of Kansas City, residents. So my team, Nick. So the company that brought me out here is a company called Ad Knowledge, which is an amazing company here in Kansas City. Their CTO, and this is a story that I probably really quickly will tell. He calls me up. I just accepted a job for a big company in Seattle, and he calls me up and he said, hey, I just stepped off a plane into a cow patty in something called Kansas City, Missouri. And I'm like, continue? Where are you going? But no, when we got here, they brought me out for a week to just kind of get a better feel for, the area, and I fell in love with it. I tell people Austin, Texas was perfect timing for me because they had the infrastructure to accommodate the growth. Kansas City has had the infrastructure, and it will have the infrastructure, and the growth is here. So the environment is built for us as startups, or I say disruptors, to be successful. With companies like, programs like Spark Lab KC, Think Big, the Kauffman Foundation, I've been thoroughly impressed. And it's one of the reasons why when I told my guys, hey, we're going back to the West Coast to be a part of this other business accelerator, they said, no, we're going to stay here. So we're happy to have stayed here. Hopefully that answers the question.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we have a question to your right over here.
Hi, my question is, how do you hope to get this product to the college students?
Yeah, no, that's great. So distribution is hopefully going to be done through the career service department. It's a private label solution, so the goal is not for us to go after you, the end user in particular. It's a very crowded and somewhat muddied up process to do that. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to rely on our career service departments, sit down with them and put together marketing materials that make sense to distribute this out to the students, hopefully leveraging or using the students' email accounts specific to their school. And then it's just a matter of responsive users. It's a matter of us putting our money where our mouth is and making sure that it does what it's supposed to do to keep you engaged.
A question over here in the middle.
Yeah.
Oh, she took the question.
You did? You sure you want to ask another one? We can.
I got one for you.
Okay.
So do you have any schools currently that are signed up with you, and when are you expecting to be live?
That's a great question. Yeah, so we do. So our product program company, we've been around literally for like 4 months. In the last 90 days, we've been able to sign up 10 schools. We are currently talking with 20 schools. And we also have a strategic global partnership with a company called DST Systems. And then we are working on a partnership with a group called Cerner. I don't know if you guys have heard of them. Yeah, no, I think that the partnership was very important, to us because we wanted to be able to go to schools and say, look, businesses see the value in what we're providing. We're not doing it because we want to rely on, the distribution of job opportunities from the businesses, but we do. We've had a warm embrace from schools that we've started working with.
Next question to your right again.
Yeah.
Hey, Christian.
Hey, Joe.
It's been fun watching the organization and the vision mature. Not that you weren't. Can you talk to us startups about how you make certain assumptions early on and then you test those either through the real marketplace or your advisors, and then at some point you pivot and all of a sudden it becomes truth?
Yeah,
You know what I'm talking about?
Joe Lieberman, who's the CEO of Fan Addict, and you guys have that big event on Saturday, by the way, in the Crossroads. Definitely check it out. That was a plug. So, yeah. So when we got into the Spark Lab KC program, we thought that my team and I, we thought that we had mastered the art of just providing a resource like this to everyone globally. It didn't have to be specific to students. And then we were like, we can't compete with companies like Career Builder. When they've got high 7, 8-figure budgets, and we've got like 4-figure budgets, we can't. It's no competition. So we made the pivot to go specifically to colleges and to students. And I think the biggest factor in that was the advisory board. So there is an advisor up there, one in particular, who works for a company called Front Flip here in Kansas City. And we were sitting down with him in our office, and he was helping my CTO to, our product obviously needs to scale, so they were building out the infrastructure. And he said, have you guys given any thought to just really owning one market and then seeing, once the proof is in the pudding, about blowing it out? And of course, we want to be everything to everyone, but we decided against it, and thank goodness for that. I mean, within literally a 2-month period, we were signing up school after school after school. We were getting invited to speak at events. We were getting exposure, and more importantly, we were getting the opportunity to sit down with students. One of our biggest fans is a school called Rockhurst University, which is like off the charts in what they're doing right now here in the community and nationally. And we were just picked to be a part of their capstone project, which is an opportunity for some bright-minded individuals who are getting their undergrad degree to work with us side by side and help us to build and scale our business. And it's for free, so it's always nice. But yeah, I mean, it was a learning experience. We made a pivot smack dab in the middle of a business accelerator, and it really just stems from the people that were around us. I think startup founders, it's like we take the muzzle off, and a lot of times we just go 110 miles an hour. It's just when the people that reel us back in, help us to kind of refocus and really own our market. So yeah, hopefully that helps. Joe.
Right here in the middle, he actually does have a question.
You do, right on, man. I knew it was coming.
I find this extremely interesting because I am currently in the quarter-life crisis stage. So
you should be an entrepreneur.
I'm working on that.
There we
But
go.
got to pay the bills somewhere. So the biggest piece that I like about Indeed and Monster and that is the fact that they take your resume and then kind of put you with certain businesses. Like, oh, you would probably have a 90% fit with this position. Would you say Briefcase is first and foremost an aggregator, or does it have portions like that where it will take your resume, maybe a quick personality test, something like that, to help the colleges kind of mesh 95% for this position and only 20% for this position?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I see it's already at 0, but I'm going to go with this. So would you ever live in Phoenix, Arizona, out of curiosity? Would you ever make a move, something like that? Yeah? Right, it's nice. So questions like that are important. So with our platform, what we're going to do is, the smart technology that we built in-house, it's important for us to aggregate. So to answer the first point of your question, we are an aggregator. But with the technology that we built, it allows for us to, once we validated the job, then turn around and take the profile that you've given us And after periodically pinging you with questions like that, are you a warm-blooded animal? Would you love to live in Phoenix, Arizona? Because if we see a lot of jobs coming from GoDaddy and we've assessed that that would be a great opportunity for you, we're going to distribute that to your device. And the one thing I didn't touch on too is that we are for the first time giving, for every application, users an opportunity to hit yes or no to apply to a job. So never again as a user will you, unless you want to, need to sit there and manually upload a resume, upload a cover letter, and then manually fill out the basic content and information. Our system is built to do that for you. So hopefully that answers your question. But yeah, we're going to try to be the best of both worlds, to be honest.
Next question in the back to your left here.
Yeah.
Your tagline is putting the future of your career in the palm of your hand, and that interests me. So as I think about the future of your career, I think about the folks in this room. There's a wide range of ages and a wide range of career experiences in terms of searching for jobs.
Yeah.
I know the career space has changed significantly in just the 20 years since I've been out of college. And at times it's hard for me to wrap my mind around how this whole space works. What can you share with us in terms of where we are today in 2013, in terms of matching employers with employees, and where Briefcase fits into that, given how quickly and how rapidly this whole market changes and the perspectives we bring to that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the market's drastically different. I think that we understand that we're going to have to stay on our toes. We're tackling the problem in a unique way. Traditionally, businesses that have tried and failed in our space, they've done so because A, they rely on the employers to make money, which we're not doing. We're taking the postings, thank you. And then secondly, they try to fit schools' pricing model-wise into specific tiers, which doesn't work because each school is different. They're as unique as the thumbprints, so it is changing all the time. But what we're doing, to answer your question, what we're doing to stay up on that is to continue to innovate. My CTO and co-founder is probably the hardest, most in-depth research guy on the face of the earth. We're looking at what the competition is doing in the space, which, to answer that point, I think with President Obama announcing that that's what the federal government is going to be doing, that's how they're going to be grading schools, then you see a lot of schools now kind of running to the gun to get ready for what's coming and arming themselves with resources like Briefcase that will allow for them to be more transparent in the metrics that they provide, not only to the federal government, but when they go after accreditation and funding and onboarding new students. I think people are questioning the validity of a four-year degree. It's not like it was 2 years ago. You've got people like Mark Zuckerberg or other individuals who are wildly successful that didn't get their degrees. But at the end of the day, we see the value. We see it in the market, we see it in the economy of getting a degree. The track that you can have as a result of going and investing the time and learning, whatever is parallel to your path. I mean, we want to keep kids there, and more importantly, that we do monetize. This isn't a nonprofit, so we want to make sure that there's still students who are enrolled and engaged. So I hope that answers your question.
Question up here in the front.
Yeah.
It sounds like many of the colleges you are connecting with are receiving what you're doing, but I'm just curious if you have encountered any that are skeptical, or just curious about your, just what's been difficult and how you communicate what you're doing.
Well, I have an honest face, so I would say that, no, you know what, it's funny, no. Even George is laughing. I mean, that's an accomplishment. So, we actually have one of our clients here today that we're working with, and this is what I will tell you. She has been very transparent with us about, you guys don't have a product to show us just yet, because what we're doing is so unique. It's not being done in the market in the way that we're doing it. So it takes a lot of time to build it, which we are going into alpha next Wednesday. But she's been very transparent in sitting down with us and saying, hey, listen, these are where our needs lie. And what we found is that where her needs, where they currently are for her school and her students are completely different than one of our other clients down in Columbia. So, we're trying to figure out how we can build it out to where it's one size fits all. But it is different, for each school. I mean, some schools, for example, our client that's here today, they have no problem putting people into the workforce. They just, you can tell, they want to continue to be on the cusp of innovation, and for them, that's very key. And I think that she feels that they found that with us. I'm just going to do one of these just in case because I don't know where she is. So hopefully that answers your question as well.
Next question to your left.
Well, as someone who has a kid in college now, I appreciate anything that will get him off of my payroll and onto anybody else's payroll. But I was hoping you could talk a little bit more. You mentioned the M word earlier, monetize. Could you discuss your revenue model just a little bit for us?
Yeah. Well, we have one. It's, no, you know what? This is the one thing, and I know the founders of Spark Lab are here today, and they're probably going to be like, we've been asking the same question. For our space, it's so unique. Like I said, there's not one size fits all price-wise. We go and meet with one client, and they said, this is what we're willing to do. We go meet with another client that's like, oh, we'll do this. Yeah, I can see. Yes. Oh, sorry. So our clients are our colleges. Yeah, we monetize off of schools, but we do it in a way, we're trying to figure out the right formula to do it in ways that accommodate the school, and more importantly, because I love the schools, I love our clients, but our students are what matters, our users. So we've explored, any and everything from an annual line item tuition, cost, could range anywhere from $1 to $6 per student annually, or hitting them with a one-time implementation fee to put the product into play in their existing ecosystem, very low cost, and then a yearly reoccurring revenue stream. It just depends on the user. The other thing is advertising. It's funny, I was watching some of these last night as I was kind of eating my ice cream and getting ready for today, and I found that every business is so wildly unique to its environment. And for us, we have to constantly continue and be open. We have to continue to be open to the idea of a school coming in and saying, well, we're going to pay this way, and then talk to them about if that fits for us. We definitely don't want to come in hard-nosed and say, this is how we're going to make money. And then the other way, too, is, the alumni. I mean, the fact is, we're tying into, the student social profiles. So I'm sure for those of us that are no longer in school, we get pinged all the time. Hey, where are you now? Where are you working? How much money are you making? All that from our alum, from our career service department or the admissions department. What we're able to do now is when the student rolls off, even if they don't take our product with them, which is something that we're going to be working on as a 2.0, we're still able to see where they are, what they're doing. So that gives the school an opportunity now to build and develop those relationships with wherever the student is. Not only are they now having actual metrics on their alum, but they're also able to ping Bob Smith and say, hey, Bob, I see you're the Senior Vice President of Midwest Sales for ABC Company. We don't have a relationship with ABC Company. We would really love to talk to you about how we can get you at career fairs, et cetera. So there's a potential for us to monetize that way, and then obviously with substantial amount of users, then you can start talking eCPMs and revenue from advertisements.
Question up front?
Yeah.
Hey, Christian.
Hey,
Bob.
Bob.
You mentioned the 4-year degrees. Have you gone after like community college, like Johnson County Community College, Kansas City Community College, vocational and tech schools, Phoenix Online, and also there's a big effort right now to put veterans to work because we're downsizing. Maybe you could get the VA on board to use your product to help veterans find jobs.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think our clients are wide-ranging right now, and I think we're going to continue to do that. We don't want to bite off more than we can chew right out of the gate, but we know that the demographics are broken down, and there are some areas of this ecosystem that are departmentalized. But like right now, we've got we're working with a Jesuit school. We're working with a massive online school. We're working with a school that is well known, down or over in Columbia. So we're trying to get all different kinds of schools on the platform to see how our system interacts and what we need to change. Because although people stand up in front of investors all the time and they say, well, we're a white label product, so overhead is like this and the revenue is like this, the truth is that we deal with people and in an ecosystem that's changing every day. So we're going to have to make sure that to accommodate those changes.
Yeah, quick questions here.
Yeah.
Christian.
Matthew Marquez.
2 questions for you. One, content is king, right?
Yeah.
So you talked about aggregation. I'm curious to know, it's something that we're researching now ourselves. I'm curious to know any hurdles you had to jump through or jump over to get a hold of this content, because a lot of the challenges we're finding is they don't want you to resell their content. And question number 2, what flavor ice cream did you have last night in preparation?
I knew somebody was going to ask that question, man. I was like, what was that?
It's a tip to get ready.
Yeah, no, it was orange cream. I buy them up like hotcakes. I love that stuff. So yeah, aggregation is a simple concept. I think a lot of people do it with a lot of different industries, products, services. For us, the hurdles that we had to get through were being transparent. That's it. You know, we were afraid of the ask for a while. And then because we aggregate, or because we pull jobs from Career Builder, Monster, LinkedIn, Indeed, The Ladders, Beyond.com, et cetera. Nice. Yeah, exactly. Oh, sorry. So yeah, I'm like, God, the feedback comes from everywhere in this building. So what we're doing essentially is we are taking from job boards, but we're not stealing it. So we had maxed out on our permissions on Career Builder within hours. And so I called a buddy of mine who's the vice president of global product management in Chicago for them, and I was like, hey, listen, man, I want to talk to you about something. And I told him, I was like, this is what we're doing. You know, this is who we're focusing on. This is the users. This is who potentially we'll be paying. And he said, awesome. You know, at the end of the day, the trajectory, and this is the part where I pull up a whiteboard and actually, you know what, is that okay? This is uncharacteristic.
You're completely out of time.
Okay, so let me just do this really quick. This is the this is the applicant tracking system. This is the employer. This is the job board. This is our resource. This is the student. We pull jobs this way, but it goes back this way. So at the end of the day, the job still hits the employer's applicant tracking system like Taleo or jobs.com as though it came from Career Builder. So for them, it's just an added layer of exposure to wider candidate pool. And we don't charge them, and they don't charge us. So to answer your question, being transparent, you'll find that they may one day come back to you about revenue share, but ultimately, content is king. And content comes in a lot of ways, but sharing is the ultimate way to get it distributed.
Okay, you've got 30 seconds because I'm way over and everybody wants to get back to building their companies.
Sorry.
How can we help you?
Yeah, so we have decided that we want to engage people like you, parents. If you've got family members, if you've got daughters, sons, cousins, friends who are in school, we want to do this weird thing where once a week we open up our office and give an opportunity for people from the community to come in, sit down, play on our platform, and then also give us feedback. I don't think that this ecosystem becomes stronger and more widely recognized and accepted if parents aren't involved. You know, sisters, brothers, cousins, and the list goes on. So we're looking for the community to give us feedback, come work with us, figure out how our secret sauce will apply and ultimately take over the world in the career service game.
Great job. Thank you.
Right on. Thanks.
All right, another great week. Real quickly, I want to really support that you guys get a chance to go talk to these guys afterwards if you have any more questions. This is a chance where they get to blow up after being at 1 Million Cups, and that is really what happens. Again, come back next week, bring your friends, same time, same place. Thanks.